I don't imagine you'll receive this letter, but I nonetheless must send it.
Lovely viewers, gather around because today's story is one that has left the entire entertainment industry in shock, awe, and deep emotions. The news broke like wildfire across Asia and beyond. That song Hye Kyo, the beloved queen of K-drama and one of the most admired actresses in the world, has written a heartfelt letter to her fans. A letter that wasn't just a simple thank you note, but one filled with emotion, honesty, and vulnerability. The kind of letter that doesn't just get read, it gets felt. And what makes this letter even more powerful is the fact that she mentioned someone many thought she had completely closed the chapter on. Joong. Yes, Song Joong. The mention of his name in her deeply personal words has stirred up old memories, reignited fan discussions, and completely broken the internet. Now lovely people, let's dive deep into this. I want you to imagine this as if you were holding that letter in your hands. The envelope, perhaps plain, may be sealed with her familiar neat handwriting. As you carefully unfold it, you hear her voice in your head, tender yet strong, as if she's reading it directly to you. Fans around the world felt exactly this when the letter went viral. Social media timelines exploded with hashtags of her name, translated versions of the letter in different languages popped up everywhere, and people from Korea to the far corners of the globe couldn't help but discuss one thing. Why did she mention Joong, and what does this mean for her journey moving forward? Her letter begins with gratitude. Heartfelt, sincere gratitude to her fans who have stood by her through thick and thin. And if we take a moment to reflect on Song Hye Kyo's career, you'll agree that her path hasn't always been easy. From being thrust into the spotlight as a young actress to navigating the dizzying highs of international fame, and then the very public heartbreak of her divorce with Joong, she has seen the kind of ups and downs that would break many people. Yet, in her words, there was no bitterness, no resentment. Instead, she opened her heart in a way that made fans cry as if they were part of her personal family. And that, dear viewers, is exactly why this letter has become such a phenomenon. It's not just about the fame. It's about vulnerability. It's about truth. It's about a woman who, after being through one of the most talked about marriages and divorces in Korean entertainment history, still found the courage to reach out to the people who've loved her unconditionally. Her fans. But the moment that sent chills across the internet came when she wrote a few lines that many are now dissecting word by word. She mentioned Joong, not in anger, not in regret, but with a softness that no one expected. According to the translated versions that spread online, her words went something like, "Life has taught me that some chapters, even if they close, remain part of your story forever. To the people I shared those chapters with, I wish them happiness and peace always." Fans immediately knew who she was referring to. It wasn't coded, it wasn't vague, it was clear. This was her way of saying she hadn't erased Joong from her life's book. He was a part of it. He mattered. And though they are no longer together, she acknowledges the importance of that time. Imagine being a fan reading that. How would you feel? Some said they cried for hours. Others said it gave them healing, a sense of closure. Many commented online things like, "This is why I love her. She is pure grace. She is strength." Others even wondered if this could be the beginning of something new, a sign of reconciliation, though most agreed it was more about peace than reunion. Let's not forget, the divorce between Song Hye Kyo and Song Joong was not just any celebrity breakup. It was one of the most high-profile splits in Korean entertainment. Their fairy tale romance that blossomed during Descendants of the Sun had fans rooting for them as the ultimate couple, both on screen and off. Their wedding was like a royal event, watched by millions. But when the divorce news came in 2019, it felt like a collective heartbreak. Fans worldwide couldn't believe it, and the silence between the two since then has only fueled curiosity and speculation. So when Hye Kyo, after years of silence about him, finally mentioned Joong, it was as if the world collectively gasped. Think about that moment. After years of moving forward with her career, of keeping her personal life guarded, she drops his name, or rather his presence, into her letter. It's no wonder the internet practically broke. Now lovely viewers, let's get interactive here. If you were one of those fans who received this letter firsthand, what would your reaction be? Would you feel hope that maybe old wounds could finally heal? Would you feel proud that she could speak about the past without bitterness? Or would you feel sadness, knowing that some love stories, no matter how beautiful, remain only as memories? Scrolling through the reactions online, the spectrum of emotions was incredible. Some fans wrote essays about how they themselves had gone through heartbreak and found healing in Hye Kyo's words. Others confessed that her strength inspired them to forgive people from their past. That's the beauty of a true star. She doesn't just perform in dramas. She lives in such a way that her real-life story inspires millions. What also stood out was how respectful she was in her mention of Joong. No details, no gossip, no negativity. Just a wish for peace. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? To know that the people we once loved, no matter how things ended, are living with peace and happiness. And let's not overlook how this letter is also a reflection of her current emotional state. For years, people have wondered, has Hye Kyo truly healed from that heartbreak? Has she moved on? Well, her words in this letter seem to answer that question in the most graceful way possible. Yes, she has moved on, but not by erasing the past. Instead, by embracing it as part of who she is. That's powerful. Now, let me ask you again, dear viewers. Don't you think this is why Hye Kyo continues to reign as one of the most beloved actresses in Asia? It's not just her beauty, not just her acting, but her ability to connect, to be real, to show grace even when life isn't perfect. That's what makes her timeless. But of course, her mention of Joong has now sparked endless discussions. Some fans believe it's a subtle way of opening the door to possible friendship in the future. Others say it's her final closure, putting everything to rest once and for all. And still, there are those who romantically dream that maybe, just maybe, this could lead to a reconciliation someday. After all, haven't we seen real-life couples in the entertainment world reconcile after years apart? Could this be one of those rare cases? As much as we speculate, only time will tell. What we know for certain is that Hye Kyo has reminded everyone of the power of words. In a world dominated by flashy social media posts and curated images, she chose to write a letter, heartfelt and raw. And that, in itself, is a statement. Lovely viewers, as you sit with this story, let's reflect together. What does it mean for us, as fans, to see such vulnerability from someone we admire? Doesn't it make us rethink our own lives, our own pasts, and how we choose to remember those who were once important to us? Her letter isn't just about her. It's about all of us. It's about love, loss, healing, and the courage to move forward with grace. And that is why the internet cannot stop talking about it. The waves of Hye Kyo's heartfelt letter didn't just stop at a trending hashtag or a few emotional tweets. It became a global conversation, and every fan, every journalist, every casual observer of her career wanted to add their voice to the discussion. The truth is, when someone like Hye Kyo decides to bare her soul even for just a few lines, the ripple effect is monumental. And in this case, it wasn't just monumental, it was seismic. Let's picture this for a moment. Within hours of her letter going public, every major entertainment outlet across Asia had picked it up. Korean media dissected every line. Chinese news portals highlighted translations of her emotional words, and international blogs carried the headline, Hye Kyo breaks silence, mentions Joong. Imagine the scale of that. One woman, one letter, one simple but powerful mention of the man who once stood beside her as her husband, and suddenly the entire globe stopped to read. That is power. That is influence. And that is Hye Kyo. What fascinated many fans was not just the mention of Joong, but the way she framed it. She didn't address him directly, she didn't linger on the past, but she acknowledged it with dignity. And that choice spoke volumes. Lovely viewers, I want you to think about this. How often do we see celebrities, after such public separations, choose to bury the past, to pretend it never existed, or even worse, speak negatively about it? But not Hye Kyo. She chose the higher road. Her letter became a lesson in maturity, a masterclass in how to honor one's past without clinging to it. As fans began analyzing every word, many couldn't help but return to memories of the time when Hye Kyo and Joong were the ultimate power couple. Do you remember those days? The buzz around their wedding, the fairy tale images from Descendants of the Sun, the way their smiles lit up press conferences. It all came flooding back. For many fans, her words reopened a box of memories they had gently placed on a shelf in their hearts. And suddenly, it was like reliving 2016, 2017, and 2018 all over again. But this time, instead of pain, there was tenderness. One of the most touching reactions came from fans who said the letter gave them permission to remember with love, rather than bitterness. Many admitted that after the divorce, they struggled to even look at old clips of the two together. Some had deleted photos, avoided dramas, and distanced themselves from any mention of Joong in relation to Hye Kyo. But this letter shifted something. By showing that she herself can remember without anger, she gave her fans permission to do the same. Isn't that beautiful? But let's get interactive again here, dear friends. Imagine you were in her shoes. Imagine being someone with the eyes of the world watching, with every personal detail magnified. Would you have had the courage to write such a letter? Would you dare to let your guard down and show that yes, you are still human, that yes, even someone who seems flawless has scars? That's the bravery of Song Hye Kyo. She didn't have to write this. She could have simply continued acting, promoting brands, smiling on red carpets, and staying silent. Yet she chose to connect. And in that choice, she reminded the world that stars aren't just on screen. They're human beings with stories, with memories, with emotions just like us. Now, one of the most debated parts of this whole saga is the speculation. Why now? Why did she choose this exact moment to write this letter? Some believe it's because she's entering a new chapter in her career and personal life. Maybe she wanted to finally put old stories to rest, so she could move forward without the constant weight of the past. Others believe that perhaps something about recent events, maybe even Joong-ki's own journey, his family, his new life, moved her to reflect. It's a mystery only she truly knows. But isn't that part of the allure? The timing feels intentional, and fans sense that this is not just random. It is her way of saying, I am at peace now, and you should be too. Let's not forget the reaction from Joong-ki's fans as well. Many were touched by her words. Some even commented that they felt grateful for her kindness, acknowledging the respect she showed him. Others speculated quietly. Would Joong-ki respond? Would there be a statement? As of now, he has remained silent, but silence itself can be powerful. Sometimes silence says, I see it, I acknowledge it, but I don't need to add more. Still, you can imagine how the fan communities are buzzing, comparing reactions, hoping for even the tiniest response from his side. Lovely viewers, I want to ask you again. Do you think it's possible for two people once deeply in love to find friendship years later? Do you think this is what Hye Kyo was hinting at? That one day, instead of being remembered only for heartbreak, she and Joong-ki might be remembered as two people who shared something beautiful and then parted with grace. Many fans hold on to that hope, and her letter has breathed new life into that possibility. As the hours turned into days after the letter went viral, the impact only grew. Social media trends stayed alive longer than usual. Fans created video compilations of their favorite moments from descendants of the sun set to her words. Fan art flooded Instagram, showing illustrations of Hye Kyo standing with her letter, with shadows of the past behind her but light ahead. Some even made tribute videos pairing her heartfelt words with clips of her career, showing just how much she's grown not just as an actress, but as a woman. This collective outpouring of creativity showed something important. Her story doesn't just belong to her anymore. It belongs to the millions who have lived with her, cried with her, cheered for her, and healed through her. And that, perhaps, is why this letter will be remembered not just as a celebrity moment, but as a cultural one. As we move deeper into this discussion, let's pause and reflect again. Isn't it interesting how just a few lines can stir so much? How one person's vulnerability can unlock emotions in millions of others? That's the beauty of connection, and that's why this story resonates across borders, across languages, across generations. So, my lovely friends, as you sit there listening and reflecting, ask yourself this. What chapter in your life have you closed but still honor? What person from your past do you no longer walk beside, but still wish peace for? That's the universal truth hidden in Song Hye Kyo's letter. It isn't just her story, it's ours too. We were reflecting on how her words aren't just her story but also mirror our own human experiences. And that is exactly why this letter has broken through the limits of celebrity gossip and become something almost universal. It is not just about an actress writing to her fans. It's about humanity, vulnerability, and the way we all process our pasts while walking into the future. Now imagine this scene. A young fan in the Philippines, tears streaming down her face as she reads the translated version of Hye Kyo's letter. She remembers her own heartbreak, her own relationship that ended but still carries meaning. She whispers to herself, "If Song Hye Kyo can move forward with grace, so can I." Half a world away, a middle-aged fan in Europe reads the same words and feels inspired to finally forgive someone they've held resentment toward for years. This is the ripple effect of honesty. It touches corners of the globe you might not expect. And, dear viewers, isn't it fascinating how one woman's courage to write a few paragraphs can become a catalyst for healing in so many people's lives? This is why people say stars are not just entertainers. They are symbols, mirrors through which we see pieces of ourselves. Song Hye Kyo with this letter reminded us of the power of words. Not flashy, not rehearsed, but honest, simple words from the heart. The inclusion of Joong's presence in that letter is what elevated it from touching to historic. Without his mention, it would still have been a beautiful gesture to fans, a love note to those who have supported her. But the fact that she allowed his shadow, his memory, his role in her story to step into the light again, that is what made the world stop. For years, people wondered, does she still think about him? Does he still matter in some quiet way? And while her letter doesn't answer these questions directly, it shows us something more profound. She hasn't erased him. She has integrated him into the narrative of her life. That is maturity. That is grace. But this raises another question for us to explore together. Lovely people, let's think deeply. Why do we expect celebrities to erase the past when we ourselves cannot? Why do we expect perfection when in reality, their lives mirror our own messy, complicated journeys? In a way, Hye Kyo shattered that expectation. She reminded us that it's okay to acknowledge the people who once mattered, even if they're no longer in our lives. The online fan communities went into overdrive. Some posted long threads analyzing her choice of words, the emotional weight of her phrasing. Others created discussion spaces where fans could share what her letter meant to them personally. And here's where it gets even more interactive. Many fans didn't just discuss the letter. They began writing their own. Yes, inspired by Hye Kyo, people began penning letters to their past lovers, to family members they've lost touch with, or even to themselves. Some shared them online while others kept them private. But the movement was real. One fan wrote on Twitter, "Song Hye Kyo made me realize that closure doesn't always mean erasing someone. It can mean honoring the chapter and still turning the page." Doesn't that feel like wisdom we all need? Now, turning to the Korean entertainment industry itself, many insiders have quietly acknowledged how powerful this moment is. For years, Hye Kyo's name and Joong's name have been whispered together only in hushed tones. Their marriage and divorce were treated almost like forbidden topics at interviews and fan meetings. Yet now, with one heartfelt mention, she has lifted that weight. She has allowed the conversation to exist again, but this time on her terms, with dignity and softness. That is reclaiming power. Lovely viewers, I want to bring you into this moment. Imagine being in a press room when reporters received the letter. Imagine the hush that fell as journalists began to skim through, their eyes widening at the delicate but unmistakable acknowledgement of Joong. Phones buzzed, editors barked orders. Headlines were typed at lightning speed. That is how monumental her letter was. It didn't just trend, it took over the professional media cycle. And what about Joong himself? While he has stayed silent, fans couldn't stop speculating on how he must have felt reading her words. Was he touched? Was he surprised? Did he feel a sense of peace too? Nobody knows, but the silence in itself speaks volumes. Sometimes silence means respect, and in this case, it feels like a mutual understanding. No public statements needed, just a quiet acknowledgement of the past. Let's not overlook another detail, dear friends. The younger generation of fans who may not have lived through the era of Descendants of the Sun are now discovering their story afresh. Teenagers and new K-drama fans reading about her heartfelt words are now going back to watch the drama, curious to see what all the fuss was about. This shows us something beautiful. Her letter has bridged generations. It's not just for longtime fans. It's creating new ones, reviving memories, and inviting a new wave of people into the conversation. So here we are, lovely people, in the aftermath of a letter that continues to make waves. And as we reflect further, let's ask ourselves, what does this mean for the future? Will we see more letters like this from her? Will Joong ever break his silence in a similar way? Could this be the start of a cultural shift where celebrities embrace vulnerability rather than hide behind polished images? This is where you, my lovely viewers, come in. I want you to imagine, if you had the chance to respond to Song Hye Kyo's letter, what would you say? Would you thank her for her courage? Would you tell her how her words helped you heal? Or would you simply remind her that she doesn't walk alone, that millions of fans across the globe stand by her side, no matter what? Her story isn't just hers anymore. It has become part of ours. Every fan who shares her words, every discussion we have here, every reflection we take from her letter is part of that legacy. And that is why this moment will live on, not just as a fleeting headline, but as a timeless reminder of love, loss, and the grace to move forward.